On this edition of ITG, we catch up with the czar of college football. Phil Steele is with us today. We'll talk to him about picking WVU last in the Big 12 and plenty more things, of course, as well, too. All of that and more on this edition of In the Gun.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
With Wes, Owen, and Jed.
Single.
I've got the best teammates in the business.
No way.
They both played the game. They both know the game. Owen is the runaway beer truck known for having some fun.
Owen Schmidt, you have a podcast In the Gun.
Owen Schmidt, like a runaway beer truck down the sidelines.
Jed is the signal caller who is the X's and O's and the brainiac.
Statistically, always punting on fourth down makes no sense.
So we've combined those two skill sets.
Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
You are In the Gun.
Once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 255 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I am your host, Wes Euler, with the best teammates in the business. I've got the signal caller, Jed Drenning. And Jed, we are about to have the best guest in the business as we're going to get Phil Steele on here for a few minutes. And of course, listen, we're going to talk to him about the Big 12, Rich Rodriguez and his experience with roster turnover, all that stuff. But the thing that we want to know, the thing that everybody wants to know is, Phil, how could you pick us dead last, 16th out of 16th in the Big 12? We're going to hold his feet to the fire on that one, Jed.
You know, I'm gonna try and pretend, at least for a question or two, that I'm actually a journalist. Okay, I don't know if I can pretend that, but I'm gonna try and pretend and ask him. See, here's the way I want to frame it to him. Look, I understand the degree of uncertainty with this much turnover, both on the roster and with the staff. But on the other hand, there's also situations that a handful of the teams that last year finished in the Big 12 are struggling with. Why did you pick all of those teams? Not just most of them, but all of those teams ahead of us? What factored into that decision? Because if you know anything about Phil Steele, you know he's thoughtful. You know there's research involved and there's reasons for what he does. He's not just going to flip out the lights and grab what he grabs. It's going to be for a reason. So I'm intrigued to see when you kind of catalog those other teams. UCF is a team that finished toward the bottom of the Big 12. UCF is a team with a new staff. It's also in transition. Houston struggled. Yep. There are some others here to talk about, but what made you pick all those teams ahead of West Virginia? And I think the fact that it is Phil Steele saying it tends to get your attention because people do recognize there's always thought put into it.
Oh, no doubt. It doesn't matter if you're in your 20s and 30s or if you're in your 60s and 70s. You know that name, Phil Steele. It's funny, him picking WVU dead last, it kind of was a big content piece, I think, for a lot of people that cover the Mountaineers, write articles like our guy Skyler, if you're in the podcast realm, whatever. If you're in that orbit of WVU football, a lot of reaction to that. I think it's a little bit of a badge of honor for Phil. We'll ask him about that. We'll ask him about I want to just ask him about the nature of the Big 12 this year as well, too, right? Because remember last year, a lot of the teams picked at the top, like the Oklahoma States of the world, ended up having terrible seasons. A lot of the teams picked at the bottom, like Arizona State, ended up having a great season or even winning the conference. So plenty to get into with our guy Phil. And you know how this works when we have our guests, things get flying, we get rolling, we get talking. We only want to take up so much of their time as well, too. So before we get to break here, I do want to thank all of our sponsors off the top as well. A big thank you to our good friends at Toothman Ford, JR, everybody there at Team Toothman. You already know they've been with us since about day one here on the podcast. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Of course, Rick Lewis, our buddy at Fortis, the best commercial roofers in the business for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. You got to visit fortis.us.com. And finally, the good people at Johnston Equipment. Make sure you're checking out their location on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. Jed, the two things. Well, you know, at the end of these episodes, we always ask you to be an ear and tell an ear. Now at the beginning of the episodes, just reminding you to support those who support us, to do business with those who do business with us. And of course, if you're liking what you're seeing, what you're hearing on this podcast, if you're on the YouTube side of things, if you can subscribe, if you can throw us a like on the video, that does us a huge favor. The Twitter algorithm, pardon me, the YouTube algorithm loves it, boosts our videos up a little bit out there, gets us out to more Mountaineers across the country, across the nation. And Jed, we're almost at 3,000 subscribers on YouTube here as well too, just a couple hundred away. So if you could hit the subscribe button, the like button on this video, that would be a big thank you for us as well too. A big thanks to us if you could do that as well. Our buddy Phil Steele talking all things WVU, Big 12, college football. When we return on the other side, you are in the gun. For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
Back in the gun here as we roll along on episode 255 of ITG. And joining us now, he is a regular on this program during the regular season. Of course, one of our favorite guests, one of our longest standing guests, the czar of college football, Phil Steele, here with us. Phil, thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing? And have you kind of gotten your head back above water here that the magazine is published and we're finally getting a little bit closer to the regular season?
Yeah, Wes, these are my fun 2 months, July and or June and July, I should say, because the magazine's off to the press. We just spent 7 months grinding that thing out. A lot of 80, 100-hour work weeks in there. Got football season coming up, which is a lot of 80, 100-hour work weeks. But these are my fun time of the year. I'm just doing 6 to 8 radio shows a day. And we're working on the FCS magazine right now, but not the same type of urgency as we had for the FBS magazine.
Well, what have you done to stay ahead of the curve with all the changes and the 11th hour goings on with the portal and the roster implications? And you've still managed to stay ahead of the other magazines from an accuracy standpoint. I know you pushed your date a little later, but what else are you doing to try and wrap your head around all that?
Yeah, that's the key thing. You have to make adjustments. You have to look at the transfer portal and see the how it affects teams. But what's really happened this year, Jed, is last year I started doing my coaches interviews even before the portal was closed. And what would happen is some of the players left. So this year I made the decision, I'm not talking to a single coach until spring practice is over and the portal is closed. So I had to try to cram 125, 130 head coaches into the month of May. And it made it very hectic down the stretch. I'm hoping we go to one portal next year, or else I might have to move the magazine back a week. We had a few typos in this year's magazine, which got through because we were slamming pages out at the last minute. But I thought it was important to talk to each of the head coaches and go over the roster with them. And I think what you'll find, people say, oh, your magazine's out of date or something. No, it's not actually. We've got 99% of the players on the right team. We wait until we gave it a full 5-6 weeks after the portal closed till we went to the press. So we've got every player on every team correct. Those other magazines like Athlon and Lindy's that are on the newsstand a month before I am, they're going to the press before the portal's even closed, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, right, Wes?
It doesn't make much sense. No.
it stands out, but it stands out that you've calibrated and adjusted because you are a lot more accurate than the others. But we have to jump into the $64,000 question. And the question Mountaineer Nation wants us to ask. And you know where we're going with this as an old friend of the show, Phil. So, yes, when you look at West Virginia, obviously a lot of new faces. 60 some to 70 some new faces, potentially, depending on how you stack it. But what I got to ask, let me be the devil's advocate here. First, new staff. Yes, we know that adjustment there, but he's had success, Coach Rod has, with significant roster turnover before. So this isn't his first rodeo with major roster turnover. He won Conference USA, as you know, with 60 some new players a year ago. The transition as new staffs go should be a little bit more seamless. It's obviously a program and a culture and a state that he's familiar with. So the question I got to ask is when you look at the other teams that who knows how you consider top or bottom these days, but when you look at who finished in the bottom of the Big 12 last year, UCF, they were 4-8. They also have a new staff. Arizona was 4-8. Houston was 4-8. What was it about that handful of teams that finished at the bottom of the Big 12 last year that compelled you to pick all those teams over West Virginia, who's in a similar situation?
That's a great question, Jed, and I'll answer it completely for you here today. First of all, I looked at when you look at the transfer portal, a lot of those other schools you mentioned, with the exception of Oklahoma State had a lot of post-spring transfers. When I went over the team with Coach Rich Rod, and a lot of the players on the team hadn't even been there yet. They brought in all these new players, but they came in after spring, a good portion of them. So they're going to have to get acclimated real quick in the fall. One thing I looked at, and you mentioned, UCF and Oklahoma State. A big thing is the schedule. You look at West Virginia's schedule this year, and I rate them as playing the second toughest schedule in the Big 12. They have 5 Big 12 road games this year. There's what I call the big boys in the conference. There are 6 of them. Guess what? West Virginia plays 5. They play Arizona State, TCU, BYU, Utah, Texas Tech. The lightest team they play is UCF. I think Houston's much improved this year. They had a great defense last year. Colorado does come down towards the bottom of the Big 12, but Kansas looks good as well. And when you look at where the games are played, I think Utah's one of the best teams in the Big 12. West Virginia hosts them. So I've got them an underdog in that game. I think TCU is one of the best teams in the Big 12. West Virginia hosts them. I got them an underdog in that game. And the same thing with Texas Tech. There's 5 road games. Kansas, BYU, UCF, Houston, Arizona State, dogs in those games. And in reality, West Virginia is going to be picked 14th, 15th, or 16th by everybody. I just happened to put them at 16. What's the difference? If they were 7, 8, 9, and I had them 9, and everybody else was picking them 7, I wouldn't get this much publicity. Right. But because I picked them last, but everybody else is going to pick them 14th for crying out loud. It's not like everybody's picking West Virginia to finish in the middle of the Big 12 this year. So it's a great question. I think the schedule had a lot to do with it. The fact that a lot of the players that are being counted on came in after spring practice. But I do mention in the magazine, Rich Rod did surprise me 2 years ago at Jack State, where I picked him last, and he had him winning 9 games that year. So wouldn't put it past him, but that is a tough schedule that West Virginia plays this year. So it's who and where they play them.
Well, maybe the other side then, Phil, is, we know, like you said, a lot of the key contributors arriving late, getting there in spring, trying to kind of hop on that moving train in Morgantown. One of those guys who's not, though, one of the few returning starters. I mean, you'll probably be able to count them on one hand. You will be able to count them on one hand by the time we get to the season opener at the end of August. But Jahiem White is certainly receiving a lot of publicity. I think both in Big 12 circles and in national circles for the expectations that he has coming into this season. I mean, there might only be 2 or 3 returning starters on this team, Jahiem White being one of them, the running back being picked by yourself, by, again, a lot of other people as a all Big 12 running back this year. You had him second team, I believe, What is the faith in Jahiem White heading into his third year in the program, now in Rich Rodriguez's system, that while the team might have some issues this year, a lot of people think he is primed for a successful season?
Yeah, well, you look at last year and the last 2 years, he's been practically 1,000-yard rusher each year. I mean, when you're at over 800 yards both seasons, you're almost to that 1,000-yard level. He's a guy that's athletic. He runs well. He's physical. He's got a lot of good talent. And I like the running back core overall. Jalen Knighton coming in from SMU, I think is a solid pickup. And then you look at Cannon Katzer coming in from Ferris State. You know, the thing I've learned going over all these rosters with the coaches is that there's a higher percentage of hits with the FCS kids coming up because, number one, if they've had the production, and he's a guy that was 1,000-yard rusher last year at Ferris State, they've got the talent. Generally, they were under-recruited. Maybe they grew coming out of high school. But these guys have, as long as they have the productivity, they come in, they're thankful for being there. They love the training table. They get bigger, stronger, faster, and they're usually great pickups. There's a higher percentage of hits with those guys, so keep your eyes on him as well. I think it's a really good running back core. And the position that Rich Rod feels best about is probably quarterback with Miracle and Jalen Henderson there, Max Brown. There are three guys that he can rely on. So there's no doubting the talent West Virginia has. You know, I'll take you back to Arizona State for a minute. 2 years ago, Arizona State, they came in, they brought in a lot of transfers. They went 3-9 that first year. Last year, they're at the top of the Big 12. And as you know, the last 2 years, I've picked West Virginia higher than everybody else. Just this year, I picked them lower than everybody else, but not much lower, just a spot or two lower than everybody else.
Wes, yeah, it's funny the situation we're in. You said you could count the starters on one hand, right? Well, we're coming out of 4th of July weekend. Even if you lost a couple fingers from the fireworks, you could still count them on one hand, right? But Phil, I got to tell you, you're ahead of the curve already. You're in midseason form because my next question was going to be, how much did the schedule factor in to your West Virginia pick? You've already answered that. So let me jump to this. When you did talk to Rich, what was the most surprising thing he told you?
I was expecting with the few amount of returning starters that there would be maybe perhaps a lack of talent. I think he felt pretty good about the positions on the team as far as the talent goes. Like for example, the offensive line, when we went over that, he said the top 8 guys from last year are all gone, but he actually feels they're a little more athletic up front. Now, how quickly they're going to match together. I mean, offensive line is one where you have to have the unity. You have to have 5 guys working as one. It's tough to make go. Look at Oklahoma last year, for example. 0 returning starters on the offensive line, and they struggled on the offensive line all year long, even though they had talent there. And this year they'll have one of the better offensive lines in the country. So I just think it was the overall talent that he brought in. You know, as we were going through line by line and player by player on the team, I did like the overall talent that Rich Rod brought in.
Phil, I just want to ask you as well, too, as it kind of relates to, this year and trying to get things off the ground. It does seem like a year where the Big 12, I don't want to say is wide open because, and you laid out the teams that rightfully so are at the top of the pecking order of the favorites heading into this season. But when you look at the Vegas over and unders as well, too, there's not any 9.5, 10s, 10.5s in the Big 12. Does this feel like a year where, those top 2 or 3 teams in the bottom 14, 15, 16 teams, like there might only be 3 or 4 wins separating them by the time we get to the end of the season? Or do you think it'll shake out that there'll be a true kind of top and bottom of the Big 12?
I've been doing the magazine for 31 years, and I can't recall a conference that was it got flipped as much as the Big 12 got flipped last year. That was highly unusual. Every team at the bottom got picked or finished at the top. Every team at the top finished at the bottom. I think we're going to have a lot more stability in the Big 12 this year. I think when you take a look at a team like Baylor, that I've got near at the top, they've got Sawyer Robinson back. They've got practically a ton of players back. And here's the one thing: as I was going through, you learn things as you're going through each and every one of these teams. Going through every roster with every head coach. And the one thing that jumped out at me, and I would bounce it off the coaches, is there is something to be said for continuity. cohesion. We're in the transfer portal era, but you take a team like Clemson, for example. Their freshmen come in, their freshmen are still there. They did add to some players to the transfer portal, some key players, but the majority of their players have been there. They're a team. And Clemson won the ACC last year. Iowa State, same thing. Matt Campbell, every time I go over the team with him, he's like, Phil, I don't know if people don't realize we're here, but we're not losing players to the portal. We've got the same guys intact. They may add a couple of players, but there's a lot to be said for the cohesion. They were in the Big 12 title game. Look at the American Conference last year. Army and Navy. Those are two teams that aren't hitting the transfer portal, and they shocked people last year. Army won the American Conference. Navy was much better than expected. And so I gave a lot to continuity this year. And there are teams that are very experienced, like Baylor, like Utah, like Iowa State, like Arizona State, one of the most experienced teams in the country. And Texas Tech, even though they brought in a lot of transfers, they didn't lose a lot. They're a very experienced team. So I think when you look at the very top of the Big 12 this year, I've got Baylor, Utah, and Iowa State as the three teams at the top. Those six teams are all up there, but they've got the best schedule. When you look at Baylor's schedule, look at their road games: Arizona, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and TCU. So they've got a very good road slate if they take care of business at home, and they were good at home last year. You can't beat Utah on the road. I mean, they're almost unbeatable at home. Last year they had no offense. This year they've got an offense. They don't have the quarterback questions they had last year. You look at their road games. Kansas is one of them that's winnable. West Virginia, as I mentioned, I have Utah favored in that. Even the BYU game with BYU's quarterback situation. And then, the top two teams in the league, I think if there was a media poll, would have been Arizona State and Texas Tech. But they have a tough schedule. Arizona State has to play Baylor, Utah, and Iowa State on the road. And when you look at Texas Tech this year, they have to play Utah, Arizona State, and Kansas State all on the road. So a lot has to do with the schedule in the order that I pick them. But I think there are six teams, maybe seven. I think you could throw TCU in the mix, but TCU's got the toughest schedule of all the top seven, which is why I have them seventh. So you have to look at the talent, you have to look at the schedule. But I think what we're going to see in the Big 12 this year is a lot more stability. A lot more of the teams that are picked at the top finish at the top, and a lot more teams that were picked at the bottom finish at the bottom this year.
You're right, Phil. Continuity obviously still matters. It kind of has that vibe of, you always see, or you often see, an NCAA tournament team that has far less talent, maybe a mid-major, but it has a handful of 4 and 5 year seniors that topple somebody in the opening round that's way more talented because of that continuity. But you talked about Baylor. I think a case can be made that maybe at the end of the season last year, Baylor might have been playing the best big football of anybody in the Big 12. The question I want to ask you, you've talked about the top half, those 5 or 6 teams that populate the top half of the Big 12. Is there a surprise team in the Big 12? Like last year, it was obviously Arizona State, predicted by so many to finish last. They prevail, win the conference. There doesn't necessarily have to be, but is there a team not projected toward the top, but maybe from that bottom cluster that is a sleeping giant, similar to what Arizona State was last year? Is there somebody's schedule who might favor them that we don't know about, who could sneak up on some people that's one of those bottom 3 or 4 teams, or is that not the case?
Yeah, I think there is one team that could surprise this year, and it would be Cincinnati. And when I look at Cincinnati, they got off to a great start last year and then sort of fell down the stretch. They had a lot of close losses, which, as you know, every year in the magazine, I do an article on close wins, close losses. If you win a lot of close games one year, you're +7 or something like that, you're going to have a weaker year the next year, and vice versa. If you lose a lot of close games, you generally have a much better year. They've got Brendan Sorsby back. He is a big kid. He's 6'3", 238, can hurt you with his arm and his legs. He was one of the fastest players on the team, actually. He's got a big arm. And when I went over the team with Coach Satterfield, this is a team that, his first 2 years, they were extremely inexperienced, used the portal a lot. Last year, they were number 112 on my experience chart. This year, they're number 26. They've got 15 returning starters coming back. Dante Corleone, one of the best defensive linemen out there, was not 100% last year. He should be 100% this year. Joe Royer, one of the top tight ends in the country. They've got a veteran offensive line. And Cincinnati's got a manageable schedule this year as well. They do have to play Utah on the road, TCU on the road, but I think the schedule schedule overall is manageable. They've got the 5 Big 10 Big 12 home games. So I think if you're looking for a team that's way under the radar, everybody's picking them at the very bottom of the Big 12. It'd probably be Cincinnati this year.
Phil Steele, kind enough to make us his first of 6 or 7 different appearances on radio and podcasts and TV shows today. Phil, we thank you so much for the time. It's always great catching up with you. I hope you have a great rest of your summer, and we'll talk to you during the regular season. And obviously now we know the magazine is out. So before you go, tell everybody listening where they can get it, where they can find you.
I appreciate that, Wes. Yeah, the magazine is right now at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. Those are the only 2 locations you can get it at, and you can go there and pick one up today. Get them before they're sold out. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million are your 2 locations, or you can go online and go to philsteele.com. And if you go to philsteele.com, I'm going to charge you a shipping charge. It costs to ship things, but we give you the digital magazine absolutely free. And the digital magazine is actually updated all the way through September. So go to Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or philsteele.com, but 360 pages. It's got 3 to 4 times the amount of information any other magazine out there.
We love it. Phil, great stuff as always. Thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Great talking to you, Wes and Jed. Had a lot of fun this morning.
At Coyote, we're going to treat you like dirt because we hold dirt in the highest regard. We're honored to find it under our fingernails. It keeps us humble, honest. If you know us, you know getting treated like dirt means getting treated with respect. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Now at Johnston Equipment, get 0% financing or a free loader with low-rate financing on select Coyote models in stock.
Come check out our new Coyotes at Johnston Equipment.
There you have it, Jed. Always great. I mean, we could keep Phil for 2 hours, but a great 20 minutes or so there with the czar of college football. And I think he liked the way you phrased the question to him. It wasn't just a, "Hey, Phil, you picked us dead last. What the heck, man?" It was a, "Hey, we get it. A lot of roster turnover, new coaching staff, but you've got that at some places like Houston and UCF as well too." But like you said, a thoughtful, a thorough answer from Phil Steele. And hey, I think he's leaving some wiggle room there as well too. He mentioned Rich Rodriguez surprised me recently, what he was able to do at Jack State, winning those 9 games. Some good stuff there from our buddy Phil Steele.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Wes, a couple of years ago, he projected, Jack State toward the bottom of Conference USA their first year in FBS. Well, they didn't do that. He pointed out, to his credit, that they won 9 games and they did overachieve. But Phil is a very schedule-driven guy, as he should be. That's probably one of the best ways to approach this, working your way from the inside out. And so I'm not surprised that he kind of beat me to the punch. I didn't get to ask my question about the schedule. He already answered it before I even got to ask it. But when you explore West Virginia's schedule, he made a lot of great cases. The teams that we have at home are some of the tougher teams from a home schedule that anybody in the Big 12 is going to be playing at home. But it all comes down to this. It's still, even with Phil doing it, and Phil tends to be more accurate than the rest, but in this changing age, projection is more difficult than ever. 2 years ago, West Virginia by the media was picked to finish dead last in the Big 12. We won 9 games. Last year, Arizona State was picked dead last by the media. They won the conference. It's now more difficult than ever with the transient rosters to project what it's going to look like for anybody. So isn't that relative when you're also looking at schedules? I mean, there's going to be a couple teams on these schedules that maybe isn't quite what you thought it would be. And when it looks like, I don't know who it might be, but when you look at the schedule and say, "Oh man, that's a tough game to get during that part of the season,"
right.
Maybe the time we arrive there, you'll be thinking, "Oh, thank goodness we got them right now." I mean, there's going to be 1 or 2 of those.
I think that, Jed, I think that happened with us. I think that happened with us last year with Arizona.
Absolutely did. Absolutely did. It happened last year with us at Arizona. Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State was a game that you thought, wow, that's going to be a tough challenge in Stillwater. And we ran them out of the building, but you just don't know who it's going to be. So, again, I understand Phil's take on it. I just wanted to frame it in a way that, look, I get the fact that you're going to put us in the lower quadrant because of uncertainty. I get that. but why all the way at the bottom when you compare us to some of the other teams? And the one that he pointed out that I thought was great, because the teams that people question us being behind would be UCF, Houston, Cincinnati. Well, he made a great point with Cincinnati. He loves Cincinnati's schedule. So you almost get the impression that if Cincinnati, and if we'd have had him on longer, we could ask this, if West Virginia had Cincinnati's schedule, would he be saying that about West Virginia
Sure.
instead of Cincinnati? Maybe,
Sure.
maybe. But yeah, it's fun to have Phil on. We'll have him back on in the regular season once things get rolling for Phil Steele Fridays. But yeah, he's very busy this time of year out doing his promotional circuit. We didn't even get into the national stuff. College football, big
different,
picture.
yeah, 6 to 8 different
Yeah.
radio hits every day.
Yeah, I mean, I had Heisman dark horses, Big 12 Heisman hopefuls. Yeah, if you had him longer, there's all kind of things you could get into. But I understand where he's coming from with West Virginia. And look, if it's up to me, I'd like West Virginia to be picked last every year. It's
Yeah.
just jet fuel. It's just jet fuel. But I don't know if I want us picked dead last year or every year by Phil Steele. That's what's a little alarming. Okay. That's what's alarming. So we will overcome. We will prevail. Ultimately, we're not going to be the 16th ranked team in the Big 12. You got to start working your way up through the pecking order. But the level of uncertainty with the roster turnover, 60 some, 70 some new kids, there's no guarantee that Rich can replicate this year what he did last year with 62 new faces at Jack State when he won the conference. So it's difficult to do, but let's see where it goes. And I understand that the schedule was a major factor, or maybe the biggest factor in his determination.
Hey, he kind of alluded to it there a little bit as well too. But if we follow the Arizona State model, I'm perfectly fine with that. All right. If we have a little bit of a down year number one here, and then we find ourselves in a Big 12 championship game, a little over a year and a half from now, I would be completely all right with that. But yeah,
Consider
always
the parallels.
I mean, there's a lot of them.
Toughness.
Yeah.
Kenny Dillingham coming back home to Arizona State to revitalize things. There's a hard edge to that program, a toughness to them. But go ahead, Wes.
No, I completely agree. I do. And I think that as well too. Like I think when there's a lot of uncertainty, when, as you mentioned, like there's very little static nature to college football anymore, to rosters, to coaching staffs, to conferences, to the postseason format. I mean, it is ever changing and kind of much more difficult, obviously, to keep a beat on. But I do think that a lot of that culture stuff, a lot of that continuity that you can build, those programs that do just have the resiliency and the right mindset, the personnel and the people are going to change, but the mindset and the onus is going to remain the same. I think especially in a wide open conference like the Big 12, that's going to go a long way. What exactly that means in 2025, we'll have to wait and see. But beyond, I think pretty confidently that WVU is going to be in good shape. Jed, that was fun, man. That was a good way to kind of, I think, kick off this week after the 4th of July, America's birthday here. Hope everybody had fun. Hope everybody has the same amount of fingers. Jed made a good fireworks joke there with Phil. Hope everybody has the same amount of fingers as they had last week. And Jed, everybody needs to be keeping an eye out because you have got your 5th and final part of your Rich Rodriguez offense series dropping here before too much longer as well.
I do. It will be the episode that drops after this one. It will be part 5, installment 5 on Coach Rod's spread offense. We've had a lot of fun with it. It's been a labor of love. This is going to be a deep dive into the numbers. And it's not just numbers, it's also trends and tendencies and some of Rich's habits. So I talk about in the episode that if you're not a numbers geek, don't worry, there's stuff in that for you too. But if you haven't had a chance, this stuff's relatively timeless. I mean, you can go back and start at part 1 if you haven't seen it. It's not time sensitive, and watch it over the arc of summer as we have the dog days of summer now approaching. You're going to be starved for content as camp is about to open here in less than a month. We're down to a number of weeks before that starts unfolding. So yeah, great time to double back. Make sure you check out the entire series. The response has been incredible. It's generated a ton of traffic. So yeah, couldn't be happier with the response, but be sure to take it all in and be on the lookout. 4 parts are already out. You can check them out on your favorite platform or on the YouTube page. But part 5 will be coming imminently here in a handful of days.
Yeah, and you're going to want to check those out on the YouTube page because Jed does a lot of cool visuals to go with the audio element of it as well. And yet, listen, I'm not saying this just to blow smoke up his butt or pat him on the back because we're here hosting this episode together. It's awesome stuff that Jed has done. If you are a football junkie, a WVU junkie, whatever the case may be, there is something in these episodes for you. If you are a basic X's and O's WVU football fan who kind of understands the spread versus traditional football, but you don't speak it real in depth, or if you're somebody who coaches football and can speak X's and O's like it's a second language. If you're very fluent in football, you will find something in there that you learn from, that you enjoy. It's been a lot of fun. The first 4 episodes, Jed has done a tremendous job with those, and looking forward to the 5th and final one here, partner. Great stuff.
I have a perspective. I'm blessed with a perspective.
You are. You're in a very unique spot.
I first met Rich when
one of the guys who was there on the ground floor of this thing.
I first met Rich when he was 23. I was a junior in high school.
Right.
He was an assistant at Salem, so known Rich for a long time, which is part of how I ended up landing with him at Glenville. So our relationship started before that. But yeah, we were there for ground zero, and I wanted to try and lend Mountaineer Nation that perspective, what that was like. When the seeds were planted, Mike Springston's involvement from day one all the way up to what it is now and the evolution of it, the things that have changed. Some things haven't changed much. Some things have changed a lot. But I wanted to share with Mountaineer Nation what that was like from those early years all the way up through what you saw last year at Jack State when he had record-breaking things taking place there. But that's what this series was kind of committed to trying to achieve. And I think in large measure we've done it. But it's been fun.
You've done it, partner.
It's a lot of elbow grease, but it's been fun, but it's been a lot of work. And as we said, we got one more to go. Make sure you check out the first 4, and part 5 will be coming soon.
Yeah, the numbers, the reception has been great. It has matched the work and the effort that you have put into it. It's been great stuff. And it is, your perspective on all of it is amazing. It's like you always hear these, like Steve Jobs started Apple in his garage, in his parents' garage, Jed was there in the garage, all right, when Rich Rodriguez started Apple. Okay, when Steve Jobs invented the spread up. You get what I'm saying. Jed was there in the garage, and he's got a very unique perspective, and it's been, and like I said, it is I'm not just saying that because you and I are friends and co-hosts. It has been fantastic stuff, and we will be very much looking forward to part 5, which will, again, be the next episode that drops after this. All 4 of those first parts available on YouTube for your consumption if you need to catch up the rest of the summer. But that will do it for this edition of ITG. A big thanks to Phil Steele, and a big thanks to all of our presenting sponsors for making this happen. For the Beer Truck Big O and the producer / co-host / do-it-all extraordinaire, Skylar Callahan, he's Jed Drenning, the signal caller. I'm Wes Euler. The one thing we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.